This is Sportscentre.
Hey, I'm Marissa Bird on this digital sports center presented by Montana's Barbecue and Bar. And folks, we got a heavyweight matchup tonight on TSN. The Capitals are in town to take on the Maple Leafs. Heading into this one, both teams are rolling and in first place in each of their divisions. How they've been winning, though, is very different. For Washington, goals have been coming in handfuls, as they are second in the league in goals scored with 102. Even without Ovi, a couple of the young guns have stepped up. Dylan Strome is first on the team with 34 points and is on pace for career highs across the board, while Connor McMichael is already 10 points away from a new career high. The Leafs, on the other hand, have been winning with defense, but they've been scoring more with Austin Matthews back. Toronto is second in goals allowed with 63, and Joseph Woll has been dynamite since coming back from injury. Woll has won each of his last 6 starts and has a .935 save percentage over that span. The offense, meanwhile, has been led by Mitch Marner, who is up to 6th in the NHL in points with 36. In his last 8 games, Marner has 16 points, and he's got 10 multi-point games in his last 12 outings, which is just wild. With Matthews back in the fold and rolling, Toronto's scoring might be coming along with their great defense. You can catch the action right here on TSN, with coverage beginning at 6:30 p.m. Eastern.
Breaking news! The New York Rangers have traded captain Jacob Trouba to the Anaheim Ducks for Euro Vakanainen and a 4th-round pick in 2025. New York aren't retaining any salary. In 24 games this season, the 30-year-old has 6 assists, and Trouba is in the 6th year of a 7-year, $56 million contract.
Week 14 in the NFL kicked off with a big NFC North rivalry game. It was the Packers and the Lions, which saw Detroit kick a go-ahead field goal with 2 seconds remaining. The Lions not only clinched a playoff berth, but they won a franchise record 11th straight game. And with their win last night for the first time since 1995, they've clinched a playoff spot in back-to-back seasons. Now let's turn our attention to the weekend and preview a few of the top games around the NFL. In the early slate of games, the Browns take on the Steelers in a classic AFC North matchup, with Pittsburgh being able to inch closer to a division win with a victory. And hey, let's just say history is on their side, because since 2000, the Steelers are 23-1 at home against the Browns. That's the fewest losses this century against a single team at home. And Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh is playing like the Russell Wilson we remember in Seattle. Last week against the Bengals, the Steelers QB threw for 414 yards, which is the 2nd most passing yards in a game for Russell. Oh yeah, and he threw for 3 touchdowns. And the 2-time defending Super Bowl champions have already clinched their 10th consecutive playoffs, which just so happens to be the 2nd longest in NFL history. It's a matchup in recent years that has seen Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs get the better of the Chargers. Mahomes is 6-1 against Justin Herbert in their last 7 games. And it's been 3 years since Herbert has gotten the better of Mahomes. Mahomes, back in Week 13, became the first ever QB in franchise history to win 100 games. And that includes the playoffs. And he set the Chiefs' records for most touchdowns with 238. Insert the Aaron Paul he can't keep getting away with this meme. But for a record 14th straight game, the Chiefs won in Week 13 against the Raiders by 1 possession. Which, you know, as a Raiders fan, stung just a little bit, you know? Just a little. It was brutal. And we can't finish a weekend preview without talking the Bills, who just happened to be taking on the Rams on Sunday. Buffalo clinched the AFC East title for the 5th straight year with their Week 13 win over the 49ers. And they look to keep pace with the Chiefs for their first AFC #1 seed since 1993. And it's safe to say after Josh Allen's historic game last week against the 49ers, where he became the first QB to throw a touchdown, catch for a touchdown, and run in a touchdown. Allen is the front runner to win MVP. Just look at the odds on FanDuel. I'm actually a little surprised he's running away with it so handedly, considering, you know, Patrick Mahomes. I know, like, is that not weird? The Bills haven't lost in 2 months and can keep pressure on their nemesis, the Kansas City Chiefs, with their 8th straight victory against the Rams on Sunday. And as always, you can catch the action right here on TSN and CTV. Time now for my favorite segment and yours, Why We Love Sports Today.
Why we love sports today.
If you have ever watched the Summer Olympics, then you're well aware of artistic gymnastics and synchronized swimming. But I'll bet you any money you never knew this existed.
So into their very first figure and they're up, turning on the spot, perfectly done, and into their second figure very quickly. And you can see just how synchronized they are. Their faces showing, they know that this is within grasp. What a performance by this team.
I mean, there's so many questions. How does one get into it? Why aren't they just on unicycles? I guess it's more impressive with the one wheel up in the air. Do they ride a bike normally when they're at home, or is it just always on one wheel? How does this even happen? We're now pleased to be joined by Tim Hauraney, our racing guy, who just happens to be in Abu Dhabi for the final weekend of Formula One. What is up, Timothy?
Newsflash, Marissa Thee, butter and honey do not go together on potato chips, or really just anything. Second of all, hello.
Okay, Tim, I don't think you should be coming after me, a chip connoisseur, about the flavors that work well together. If you don't know what Tim is talking about, I did try these chips that were butter and honey flavored. They were flavors of Korea, and they were fantastic. He seems to not agree. All eyes this weekend seem to be on Ferrari and McLaren as they battle it out for the Constructor Championship. What's at stake here, and who do you see coming out on top?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question, Marissa. Following free practice 1 here in Abu Dhabi on Friday, I found out that Charles Leclerc would be taking a 10-place grid penalty from wherever he qualifies on Saturday for the race on Sunday. He got that penalty because the team had to change the energy store system on his car, or the battery pack. And so if we do the math here, it could be quite difficult. If Charles Leclerc is starting outside of the points, he'd have to fight his way into the points. And then again, finishing first and second will give you 44 points. But then again, where does McLaren finish? In this battle, McLaren is leading it by just 21 points. That is going to make Charles Leclerc's race on Sunday even more interesting. And we have seen crazy stuff happen this season. Just remember the Qatar Grand Prix last time out. That thing finished way crazier than any of us thought it would. So anything can happen come Sunday, but Charles Leclerc's got some work to do.
Formula One has never been shy of drama. And last weekend in Qatar, tempers flared between George Russell and Verstappen. Verstappen, who qualified first, eventually had to line up in P2 behind Russell. This came after a meeting with stewards, who deemed Verstappen drove unnecessarily slowly on a cool-down lap. The 4-time champion took that personally, and when asked about Russell, said, "I've never seen someone trying to screw someone over that hard." What the heck is going on here, Tim? You know I love the drama.
Oh my God, Marissa, these two have had a massive falling out. George Russell responded to what Max had said on Thursday to the media, and it wasn't pretty. I'm sure the guys could throw a quote board up here of what he had said, but I mean, essentially, George has lost a ton of respect for Max. I asked George, how does Max sort of gain his respect back? Didn't sound like he was interested at all the way he delivered the question to me. Didn't sound like he really even cared. These two are now officially rivals. This is going to be interesting not only this weekend, but next season. When I was speaking with George in Las Vegas following that Grand Prix, he said someone needs to give Verstappen a proper fight. So 2025, Mercedes could be competitive, and if they are, watch out for these two on track.
Timothy, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
All right, thanks very much for having me, Marissa. I'm sweating through my shirt. I got to get out of here. Thanks to producer Mike. We'll see you later.
And you can catch all the action right here on TSN Sunday. Coverage of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix begins at 6:30 a.m. Eastern, 3:30 a.m. Pacific. That's it for me today. We will see you right back here Monday. Have a great weekend.